Hey guys, today's video is all about correcting and fixing anterior glide of the femur. So there's a lot of causes of this, and basically most of them stem from sitting. So basically when you have anterior glide of the femur, it can cause a lot of hip pain during squats and any exercise basically when you bend over. Alright guys, so let's take a look at the hips really quick right here. Basically, the hip is very much like the shoulder in that it's a ball and socket joint. At the end of the leg bone here, the femur is a ball, and there's a socket inside of your hip that the ball or the head of the femur is supposed to sit in. Okay, and what happens when you have anterior glide? This is what you're seeing here in this picture is like almost perfect and ideal and perfect in an ideal anatomical layout. And what happens if you have an anterior glide is that the ball of the humerus is not quite in the socket. It's actually forward, okay? And that's what's causing that pain. So I quickly wanted to illustrate how sitting actually causes this anterior glide of the femur. So when you're sitting down mostly, or usually, your chair is going to end right below your kneecap right here. And what that does, gravity is pushing down on you, and the chair that you're sitting on is actually pushing back up. And what that does is it pushes your leg bones up this way, okay, which pulls that femur out of socket. And when you perform squats and deadlifts, any motion that involves hip flexion or bending of the hip like this, that femur is not resting in its socket properly, and it's getting pinched. It can cause impingement and a lot of other like grinding, catching sensations in the hip. Obviously, guys, you don't want that. But luckily there's a really easy fix, and it's called a joint distraction. So basically what I'm going to show you right now is how to stretch the joint capsule itself so that that femur can rest more in its socket. So lots of times what I find is that the tissues of the joint capsule itself become used to that range. So basically if your femur is forward and it's not in the socket properly, the tissues back in the posterior, the back end of the joint capsule are going to be tight. And it doesn't really matter how much you strengthen your glutes or your hamstrings in an effort to pull that femur back. The joint capsule is giving you a restriction in itself, and that's what's stopping your femur from going back into its socket. So this is a really cool stretch that you can actually use to stretch the joint capsule itself and physically force that femur back into its socket. So what you need is basically any vertical machine, anything that you can really fasten a heavy duty like resistance band like this will do. You can use like a column or a pillar in your house. I'm just using this machine because I have one here. So basically what you do is you're going to tie it on there like that. You're going to step through it with one leg, pull it all the way up into your groin so it's at the upper end of your femur here. Okay? From here, you're going to walk out, take a big step out with that leg, keep it bent, and then from here, you're just going to scissor in and out of end range motion here like this. This is also a nice stretch for the hamstrings with a joint distraction, which is what this is called. So basically right now, the band is pulling my femur back that way into its socket, okay? It feels good, and this is a great way to clear hip impingement if you feel like a grinding, catching sensation in the hip when you're doing deadlifts and squats. So make sure to give that a try, guys, especially if you're having hip pain in the front and it kind of feels like there's a little bit of grinding in there. You can also do the same stretch or a similar version of this stretch by distracting the joint laterally to the side. So you fasten the band off to the side and pull your leg that way, which is a really good way to unimpinge the hips. Lots of times people have a lot of dysfunction with the femur. Sometimes it's not anteriorly translated, it's not forward. Sometimes it comes in and it pinches off a lot of tissues in there. So pulling it out to the side can also really help. Hope that video was helpful. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe and give it a like down below, and I'll catch you next time.